What up, fellow bench warmers? Today we're going to talk about the NBA and the All-Star votes that came in today. Um, we're going to go over who's in the coming from the East, who's coming from the West. We're going to go over everybody's stats and get into some big questions of who got snubbed and who didn't, and who's having an amazing year. So today I'm going to start off with the East All-Star starters. Starts off with Kevin Durant. He's the captain of the East, having a great year. Then it goes to Giannis Antetokounmpo, Embiid, DeMar DeRozan, Trae Young, and that is your starting five from the East. Brandon, who's the starting five over there in the West?
Yeah, we have LeBron James as the team captain and the number one in general in the front court. Nikola Jokic, who I think is the best player in the NBA, but we'll get into that later. Andrew Wiggins, Steph Curry, and Ja Morant. Some big news on the Western Conference side, and that would be Andrew Wiggins. And so I want to get your thoughts on him being named a starter.
I think everybody's initial reaction seeing Andrew Wiggins as the starter for the West is eyebrow raising. Like, it's not someone you think of when you think of the five best players in the West, that's for sure. And that's usually what the All-Star is. But when it comes down to it for the All-Star games, it's two guards and three forwards. So the West may have a lot of good guards, but maybe not so much in depth for forwards. For me, I think he should kind of be up there. I think it's really honestly between him and Gobert. It came down to him, Draymond Green, and Rudy Gobert for the voting. I don't know if anyone's aware of how the voting works, but fans, it's weighted between fans, media, and players. The fans get 50% of the weight, media gets 25% of the weight, and the players get 25% of the weight. So based off those rankings, they give you the total weight rank, and Wiggins between Green and Gobert ranked higher than them, actually by a fair amount. The total for Gobert was sixth, Green was 4.75, and Wiggins was 4.25. The fans voted Wiggins.
You want the lowest score.
You want the lower score.
You
yes.
want the lowest score.
Yeah. Wiggins voted by fans was number 3. So a lot of fans are surprised by it, but the fans voted him number 3 for forwards. So I don't think there should be too much of a surprise there. I guess media voted him 6, and players among the NBA voted him 5. For Draymond Green, who was the next one down from Wiggins, the fans voted him 6. The media voted him 4, and the players voted him 3. Gobert, the fans voted him 9. The media voted him 3, and the players voted him 4. So I think the biggest thing for me when I'm looking at that is the media and the players have Green and Gobert at 3 and 4 swapped between the two, and Wiggins all the way down to 6 and 5. So in my personal opinion, I think players should have more of a say for how the All-Stars get voted because they're actually playing with them, and media and fans don't play with them. So they should obviously be the lower half. But what do you think about that, Brandon?
Yeah, this one is a shocker to me. It really is. When you look at it, I think this brings up kind of a problem with the NBA. Or I mean, it's positives in some route, and it's of such a player-driven league, and it's all about personal branding. It's all about who's flashy, who's selling jerseys, who has a following. And Andrew Wiggins is a beneficiary of being with Steph, being on the Warriors, as well as he's made great strides as a player. I'm not denying that. He is a good player, but I don't think he's as good as Paul George. Now Paul George has been hurt, so I can't say that he should be a starter.
Yeah.
Gobert player efficiency rating and his rebounding and just overall, he's defensive player of the year for a reason. I
Yeah.
think he's just a more impactful player. And Draymond Green, I think, is a more impactful player for the Warriors. When you think of the success that they have, primarily on the defensive side, not that I think of them as the greatest defensive team, but their key defensive piece is Draymond Green. So I personally would not have chosen Wiggins. I did not vote for Wiggins in this.
Yeah.
It crossed my mind, but I mean, it's how it works. It's the vote, and I think that this is just kind of a systemic problem with I like that we have the interaction with the fans, but they're way too heavily when it becomes a popularity contest opposed to who's actually better and who's taking an objective look. And the Pro Bowl's the same way in the NFL. You get a lot of players that don't make it that definitely should make it. So it's not just the NBA, but it's even worse in the NBA.
Yeah, I didn't vote for Wiggins in that neither. I voted for Keldon Johnson, but he wasn't even on the list for the rest of it. So when it comes down to stats, though, I think Wiggins' stats match comparatively. He had averages 18 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, 48% from the field with 40% from 3. Draymond, 8 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 54% from field goal, 29% from 3. And then Gobert, 16 points, 15 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 2 blocks, but 71% from field goal. So
and I mean, I think just looking at the stats, I would go Gobert.
Yeah.
I would go Gobert out of the group. And I mean, you talk about the boards. I mean, he's only 2 points less, but his boards are significantly higher than those other two. And then you look at player efficiency rating. Just looking at StatMuse right now, he's currently sixth in the league overall. Only Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, LeBron, and Kevin Durant have a better player efficiency rating than Rudy Gobert. And typically, what carries him in that advanced stat is his defensive prowess, because it takes into account everything. It's like a quarterback rating, I guess you could say, of the NBA. And I would have probably went with Gobert, but I think one thing that hurt him as well, people don't see him as an offensive threat. And then you have a lot of fans that, again, they follow brands, they follow personalities. He doesn't have that big name personality. He's in a small market team. And I mean, ultimately, he's a little bit that they're just kind of a less flashy team, the Jazz in general.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think he's definitely been snubbed as a starter. I think one other thing just to kind of add is there's a big gap between Jokic and Embiid, or excuse me, Jokic and Gobert, as far as centers. And they're both seen by fans, even though I don't necessarily agree with it, as traditional fives. And 7-foot big men. And so I think Jokic tended to get people to saw it as, okay, I'm going to vote for a 5, opposed to front court in general. And so I'm going to vote for Jokic. And then I'm not even going to, I'm going to think of voting for a 3, and I'm going to think about voting for a 4. So small forward, power forward, center. And so then I think Gobert kind of lost out because of Jokic.
Yeah, that could be the thing for sure. But for me personally, I know it doesn't come down to defense at all when it comes to the All-Star game, but I think I would rather have Gobert guarding Giannis than Wiggins anyway. So let's get on to the rest of the West All-Stars. So I'll start off with the team captain, LeBron James. The man's averaging 29 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 1 block on 52% shooting and 35% from 3. So LeBron doesn't look like he's slowing down. He's getting a little bit older, but it looks like he's just aging like fine wine instead of digressing. So, uh,
Yeah.
what do you have to say about LeBron?
Yeah, he definitely deserves to be a starter. There's no disputing on that. Never, not going to hear pushback on that. I think another thing that's been impressive about LeBron this year is, he's carrying a team. It's not a good team, but he's carrying that team. And now it's hard to
They
say
got
that
Davis back
they do
two
have
nights
you know
ago. Yeah,
they have street clothes Davis coming back, and that's always good.
street
Uh,
clothes.
but when he's playing, obviously he's one of the best players in the league. I don't want to hate on him too hard. He needs to get a killer instinct, but that's for another day.
Mhm.
But with LeBron, I mean, the whole Westbrook, this has been trial. It's been a bad air. It looks like it's not going to work. And you can say that LeBron doesn't have anyone around him because of Westbrook not playing, but at the same time, he he picked him to come there. LeBron has as much say on that roster as anyone,
Yeah.
and so I don't know. He is carrying them, and there's no dispute from me. It's just kind of been a rough year for the Lakers, which I, as a Nuggets fan, enjoy.
Yeah, I think LeBron just is going in. That's what he was going on.
Yeah,
He's
he's
driving the ball. He didn't the last couple of years. He didn't drive the ball as much, but this year he's driving the ball, taking it in, doing what he's been known to do. The best driver of the ball probably ever. If you get
yep,
in it, no one gets in his way, and if they do get in his way, they pay for it one way or another. So, and on top of that, he can make a 3-point shot, 35% from three. LeBron was never known to be able to shoot threes, and now the guy can shoot threes. And it's not just a typical three either. There's long range threes from LeBron as well, and it's pretty impressive to say the least. And if these guys can get onto their groove, Anthony Davis coming back, he had a big game tonight. LeBron didn't play tonight, but AD kind of took over that game. If AD, LeBron can keep playing the way he's playing, and AD played like he did tonight, you won't need too much from Westbrook. I'll tell you that. And the Lakers are going to be scary
yeah,
because those two are all they need. Because if those two are playing that way, uh, there's not many teams I think can stop them. So,
yeah.
um,
LeBron, well deserved an All Star, and I think the Lakers should look up. They should get better. They
yeah,
obviously.
they just got to stay healthy. That's their biggest concern. Number two, your boy Jokic. I'll have
Yeah,
you take over with that one. As you
well,
can see your background.
with him, you broke down kind of the voting. He got second among players, second among fans, and then first among the media in the front. So he beat LeBron there. There's no debating that Nikola Jokic is the Western Conference starter, and it's just you can't refute it. He's number one in PER as a player. When he's on the court, his team is a good lineup. It's they outscore opponents by 10 points every 100 possessions. When he's off the court, they get outscored 12 points per 100 possessions. It's the biggest gap in the NBA. The impact that he has on his team is unlike anyone else. They are currently sixth in the hunt for the fifth seed and the fourth seed, potentially the 3 seed without Jamal Murray, without Michael Porter Jr. He's averaging 26, basically 14, 8, almost 8 on record shooting, 57%. He's nearly a 40% 3-point shooter, and his free throw shooting has improved over the course of the year. It kind of started off as like a 75% clip, but it's creeping back into where you typically see Nikola shoot, and that's about 80 to 85%. He just reached that. So, and the one thing with Jokic that you see this year is he used to be not known as a great defender. He's been an excellent defender this year. Outside of Aaron Gordon, he's the best defender the Nuggets have. He's he's just deceptive in how it's his basketball IQ, and he's also gotten athletic enough, and a lot of it comes from his basketball IQ to defend the pick and roll, which used to kill him.
That's
And
one of
so,
the biggest things that I've noticed from watching more Nuggets games and being to a couple of them is he gets stats really quick, and you don't even
yeah,
recognize that he has those stats. Because I remember being at some of those games, and I'm like, oh, that must be Jokic's second rebound, and I look at the board, and it's at number 8, and
yeah,
you're like, oh, he just got an assist, and he's at 9. You're like, oh, so he's good enough to where it's sneaky good, and that's kind of scary too, because I mean,
yeah. And that
that's
goes
how
back
good
to
he is.
fans. Is the fans having a say in this is, when it comes to Jokic, and they voted him second out of the front court, so they understand. And the fans are starting to slowly catch up with his greatness.
Mhm.
Um, with it though, with him being a small market team and him not kind of looking like the prototypical center, he's kind of had to he kind of goes under the radar, and
Yeah,
people don't realize. And the way he plays, you don't realize the kind of box scores he's putting up as the game goes on, and then you start seeing him take over, and it's insane to watch. It's a pleasure to watch every night as a Nuggets fan. He's well deserved, and there's no disputing that he is a starter on the Western Conference team. If it would be, in my opinion, between him and LeBron as captain.
yeah.
So it's crazy.
I think that is absolutely true, but at the same time, LeBron's known as one of the goats, and he's been there for longer. So it's a little hard for people to, especially the way he's
Yeah,
playing, to give it up. So I think
and
it's a
yeah,
little bit of the resistance for it as well too. So
and
um,
he's maybe the greatest player ever. So
yeah,
Jokic has been going off for the last 4 years.
yeah,
But he's not in LeBron James all time. You can't mention those two together yet.
yeah. Not yet. LeBron's been doing it for 15 plus years. So
Yeah, yeah, going
the
on
next
20.
one in the West, we're gonna finish off with our guards. I'm gonna bring up John Morant. The Grizzlies, Spurs rival. We played them last night, actually, and he definitely proved to us last night that he should be in the starting lineup. Morant averaging 26 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 steal on 49% from the field goal range and 36% from three. The big thing with this guy, man, is he can drive that ball. I'm talking about LeBron being able to drive it in and score whenever, but John Morant, I think he is right up there with LeBron on it. Anytime he wants to score, he's gonna find a way to score. Um, how do you
He's like
feel
a
about
longer
Ja?
AI. He's like a longer AI, Allen
Mhm.
Iverson. Just uniquely gifted athletically. It's crazy.
And he's super fast, really, really fast.
Yeah, it's insane.
The biggest thing with him is as soon as him and Jaren Jackson or Steve Adams get in that pick and roll, it's almost impossible to stop because that man is so fast
Yep.
that guards can barely keep up with him. So how are you going to have a 7 foot center try and keep up with him? So I see that he just has been doing great this year. Dropped 41 on the Spurs, made some acrobatic finishes. Reminded me of watching Tony Parker again, to be honest. Might be a little better than that, but um, just crazy shots, and 6 rebounds and 7 assists is nothing to bat an eye at either. He's not just scoring points; he's passing the ball as well. That's a good Grizzlies team too, because they're ranked number 3 right now, so they're doing really good out there in the West with John Morant. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's no there. I definitely, just the more I watch Jaw, I have to put him in the starting lineup. He's unique on how he approaches the game. I mean, when you're third in the league as a guard in the points scored in the paint, when that's a center's bread and butter, or a power forward. It's
Yeah,
usually leading that category. He's unique, and he's got a unique athletic talent. And you could say, well, Devin Booker.
mm,
Well, Devin Booker's got Chris Paul, and I think he has better pieces around him. Where
yeah,
Jaw, you have Steven Adams, pretty good player. Jaren Jackson, good player.
yeah,
But you're not talking about having maybe the best point guard of this generation around you. I mean, they're just such a deep team, bench all the way through. They have pieces everywhere.
I think right now as well, he just throws his body around too because he doesn't get hurt. So when you're willing to throw your body into a situation that a normal point guard wouldn't do, you're probably going to get some baskets. So that's one thing that I see from him as well is he will literally do anything to get a basket. So sometimes you see him taking a crazy jump to get at the right angle at the basket and hitting the ground pretty hard. It can be a little scary maybe sometimes if he falls down a little too hard. Gonna wrap it up with the West with the last point guard. If you want to talk about Steph Curry, the Warriors.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think this is another one that was. I mean, there's no debating it. You look at from the fan perspective, he's the greatest shooter of all time, but he's been strong the last 2 years. Not having Clay most of the year, not at all last year, and then not having him most of the year this year so far. He has Wiggins, who is a obviously game on around you. You have good players for the Warriors, but they're one of the best teams in the West, and he's definitely the best player on that team. And it's not a debate on who the best player on that team is. He's in the MVP discussion. I wouldn't say he's in the top candidates anymore. He's kind of fell off a little bit in that discussion, but there's no debating to me. I think the Ja is the one that you could debate the guards a little bit more in the Western Conference. But Steph, I mean, right now he's having a crazy year with what he's doing, shooting wise, especially, and how he'll go on a tangent. I think right now when he's on the floor, they're outscoring opponents 14. So for every 100 possessions he's on the court, they're outscoring opponents by 14 points, which is absurd. When he's on the court, you can expect a run of 14. Not 14 points, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
he's gonna beat you down.
Mm-hmm. Sure. The West, they got a good team. I think their starting five is a really good starting five, a really smart starting five. So I think all of them can score some buckets. So I think it'll be a high scoring score from the West anyway.
I think I would say Luka and Devin Booker are the ones that you could really debate.
Yeah, as far as the reserves go, the coaches of the 30 teams get a vote on 7 players for each side. 2 of them have to be guards, 3 of them have to be forwards, but then the other 2 can be any position. So you might see some surprises there too. That's somewhere where I hope that DeJounte Murray will show up. As far as the media and players went, he was 5th and 6th, but for fans, you fans let us down, San Antonio. What the heck? He came in 12th in fan voting. So the fans give DeJounte no love. So I'm hoping some of those teams will be like, oh, he's 2nd in the league in triple doubles, and he's doing pretty good with the Spurs. So, but that's how reserves go anyway. If you want to continue with Luka.
I was just saying, he's one you could argue that should be a starter. And I think he's another one where you could dispute, when we started going over the front court and Andrew Wiggins being in there, just the whole process itself, not only from a voting perspective, but why can't it just be the top 5 players?
Yeah.
Or why do someone as versatile as Luka, Luka, he's a point guard, but he's like 6'7", he's
same with Jokic and LeBron too.
Yeah, he can play the 3, and you tell me Andrew Wiggins deserves it over Luke. There's no argument that tells me that Andrew Wiggins deserves it more than Luka Doncic. There's no, and I heard ESPN talking about that yesterday, where there's a point where you should be able to vote someone as a 3, if 3. Or some, changing the process to adjust to that. And that's what I would say that Luka could also be thrown into that snub category with the whole Andrew Wiggins thing.
I think with the All-Star, when it comes to that kind of stuff as well, is that um, at one point the center position and power forward position were looking like they were going to go away. But thanks to pretty much Jokic and Embiid, Giannis, it looks like that's coming back again. So I think we could probably switch to that again. But I think as far as forwards went, I think they were probably afraid of only guards being voted in, as to where centers weren't really looked to as fan favorites. So I
Yeah.
think that's kind of where that came into.
Yeah.
The All-Star captain for the East, Kevin Durant. Now, I think he's going to be injured for the All-Star game, maybe. I have no idea, but it'll be fun watching them on TNT voting with LeBron again. That'll be interesting to see. Kevin Durant, 29 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, shooting 52% from the field and 37% from 3. KD, automatic from mid-range. He goes in and goes crazy from mid-range, and he can score at will. He can pass the ball. He can rebound the ball. I mean, there's not much more you can say. Kevin Durant can do it all. And I think it's close between Kevin Durant and Jokic on the best player in the world right now. I think he's another guy you have to look at when it comes to that. Yeah, he doesn't get the rebounds and the assists, but KD can take over a game like no other as well. What do you think about KD?
The best shooter in the world too, I would say. Overall, I mean, other than when you're talking about all 3 levels, being able to get to the bucket, mid-range, 3-point shooter, and then just the efficiency that comes with his ability to score at all 3 levels.
Yeah.
It's his effective field goal percentage is traditionally one of the best in the league. He's an incredible player. Has had the injury bug. And the next guy we're going to get to on the list too is probably in that category, best player in the world as well.
Yeah, that is Giannis Antetokounmpo. That guy. Or were you thinking Embiid?
I was thinking Giannis.
Okay, I was about to say.
Embiid. I mean, I think the
He
three
has some big names.
This front court here for the East. I mean, it's a historic. This is like we're seeing historic players.
Right.
I mean, Embiid. Well, Giannis is 3rd in the league in PER. Embiid is 2nd in the league in PER. I mean, they're both shooting at incredible clips. Giannis is at 53%, Embiid at 49%.
Yeah.
Embiid's about 29 points per game with almost 11 rebounds, and 4 assists is not a slouch number for a center either.
I think the big thing with Embiid as well is he's up there matching with Jokic about 3%. He's about 36% from 3. Jokic 37% from 3. And he's a little bit higher than Giannis, who is 28% from 3. So he has that going from 2. The guy can shoot. He can shoot as well.
Oh yeah.
Embiid.
We're seeing a whole new level of we're seeing different centers.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid is part of that traditional mold that we think of when we think of centers. He's big, he's physical, he plays solid defense, he's a good rim protector, but he's not limited to just those skills. Like Gobert's limited to those skills. Joel's not. And that's what puts him in a different tier. And I mean, Giannis, you could argue, is basically a 5 as well, and how he plays, and people refer to him almost as a big. And so it's crazy the front court play we have in the NBA in general, but
they're amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing with Joel, and I know Nuggets fans will say that it's a negative, is he gets to the line. He gets to the line, and him and Giannis get about 11 free throws per game. And when you shoot, at 81%, that's an extra, over 8 points a game that you're getting at the line.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just
Easy points.
yeah. I mean, you can argue that it's repping with Jokic that he doesn't get as many, but either way, Embiid is getting to the line and getting easy points.
Yeah.
And
The next one in the East is someone that I like, someone that carried this team that I'm repping right now for a little while. Probably didn't get the recognition he deserved in Toronto or in San Antonio, but now that he has a new life in Chicago, DeMar DeRozan. He was ranked number 1 in every category for the Eastern Conference for the guards, averaging 26 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, and shooting 50% from the field. Just an amazing year for him, a comeback year. For me personally, I know that this has been the player that everyone else is seeing for the first time, basically, and that he hasn't lost it. I think when he was in San Antonio, people may have thought that he wasn't as good as he once was. But at the same time, I'm going to be real, the Spurs didn't have a great team around him to really help him out neither. So I think really coming to Chicago, it really boosted his confidence. And I think he has his swagger back. And oh man, in the Windy City, they're going off with DeRozan. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a really good player, and what you were saying, and I think we had this discussion last year where I almost forgot about DeRozan when we were discussing the Spurs and the Nuggets, and he was still putting up like 25 points a game there. I mean, it was definitely the leading scorer. I don't know the exact number, but he was still a 20 piece for sure every single night, and he did get forgotten about, but now he's in that market, the third biggest market. They're one of the best teams in the East. And then they have that legacy. The Bulls have a legacy that they haven't been as good as they've once been, but Chicago expects a lot from the Bulls, probably more than any of their teams.
Yeah.
And so, they're living up to it finally. And DeRozan has been the biggest piece in that, 100%. So, Levine too, but the adding of DeRozan is one of the things that took him over the edge.
Yeah, that guy is a slasher. He can drive the ball. Yeah. Another guy that can drive the ball crazy is DeRozan. He'll make some insane shots. Sometimes when he's shooting the ball, you'll be like, "Why are you taking that shot?" And then it goes in. You're like, "Oh, okay, well, maybe next time don't do it like that." But I mean, they go in. He makes some crazy shots as well. So a little bittersweet seeing him doing great things in Chicago, but he did great things with the Spurs. So he comes back tomorrow to San Antonio. So I'm going to be interested to see what kind of tribute video they have for him. It'll be really cool, hopefully.
Yeah, they should. They definitely should have something along those lines. After they did it for Patty Mills and Aldridge. Yeah. But and just adding to his cases, he's pretty high up there on PER. Just going over like the advanced stuff, in addition to his traditional, statistics. But he's one of the league leaders. He's somewhere in the top 15 in PER. He smashed between Jarrett Allen, who doesn't get a whole lot of run compared to a lot of these guys on this list. No, I guess he does. He just plays differently. And then DeMar DeRozan. And then between that, after that, it's Sabonis.
Yeah.
So he's in when I think efficient players, Sabonis comes to mind, and he's ahead of him. So
when we I know we're talking about All-Star, but if there's one player I want the Spurs to get, it's that guy. I'll tell you what. I think he would work perfectly for the Spurs. But we'll go into the last.
Sabonis is one of the better players around.
Yeah. The last position, which is Trae Young, filling in that last guard spot. What do you got to say about Trae Young? Atlanta Hawks.
Well, they're following their Eastern Conference Finals appearance with not a great year. I don't even think they're in the playoffs right now if it was to end today.
Yeah.
But he's playing fantastic. I mean, on 34 minutes a game, he's scoring almost 28 with 4 rebounds per game and almost 10 assists per game. That assist clip is amazing. And especially with the scoring, when you combine that with the scoring clip, and then he's had some monster games.
Yeah.
And he's playing efficient. Just going over the PER, it's right behind Rudy Gobert, which Gobert is he's extremely efficient because he's limited in what he can do on the offensive side, and so he doesn't have as many attempts of like he's not going to have 3-point shots and mid-range jumpers and stuff that affects his efficiency, but Trae Young does, and he's right around in that efficiency level of Gobert. He's right behind Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, LeBron, KD, and then Gobert, and then it's Trae Young as far as PER. So, and it's at a 25.2 league average, or what you want it to be is about 15. So he's well above that average mark. So he's having a fantastic year.
That is good. I do think he is someone that fits great for the All-Star game as well too. So if he's able to play in the All-Star game, watching him shoot all those threes, because he can shoot it from deep too. So a lot of people aren't a big fan of the All-Star game, but I like seeing scoring. So I mean, I like watching them go off. I mean, I don't really care for defense in an All-Star game. I want to see these guys do crazy dunks, shoot from midcourt. I don't really care to see them play hard against each other, but I get it to where some people want to see the All-Star game getting taken more seriously. But at the same time, I love watching the scoring. The high scoring games are just fun to watch.
They really are, and he's going to add to that. He's a natural scorer. He's a showman as well. He also has a big following. He's a very popular player.
Yeah.
So I think he adds to it. Who do you think some of the snubs in the East are?
I think as far as the East goes, I think it's pretty locked down. As far as there wasn't really anywhere where like the media, fans, or the players really were in disagreement. Someone who is pretty close for a guard that could have been in the starting lineup for me, honestly, is Zach LaVine. Because he's putting up great numbers too. 25 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal on defense, shooting 49% from the field goal range and 40% from 3. So he's having a really great year in the 3-point shooting and playing really consistent, great basketball, along with all the people on the Bulls. So as far as the fans, media, and players go, he was number 3 by the fans, number 3 by media, and 2 by players. And Young was just a flip of that. So it was pretty close when it came down to voting as well. So
yeah, I think LaVine would probably be the one that you could maybe argue. I agree with that. He's definitely worse as far as PER than DeRozan and Young. Not that PER should be the only statistic, but since we brought it up for everyone else, I think it's fair to say that he's below DeJounte Murray on that. He's right above Yusuf Nurkic. So he's in that category as far as PER. He's not getting a whole lot of love there, but he's a huge contributor and a huge piece of that Bulls team, which looks really good.
He's really explosive for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know how well Vucevic is doing this year, but Vucevic, Nikola Vucevic for the Bulls. You add him on top of the Bulls. Not to make this a Bulls podcast, but you have a really good team there in Chicago. Yeah. Vucevic has been an all-star in the past, and he carried Magic to the playoffs. So,
talk about a big market team, Chicago. But that's everybody. That's all the starters from the East and the West. What do you think overall? Do you think You think he got him right as far as the West and the East
Ev-
starters go?
Everything but Wiggins.
Yeah.
I just can't put Wiggins in there. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be an all-star. I think you can definitely make a case for him to be an all-star. But I mean, his PER is at 16, which, like, again, the average is 15. His points 18, 4, and 2. I mean, they're good. They're really good. But you see that from players all the time. That's what you expect from maybe your third scorer as an NBA team. At least these days, your third scorer, maybe your second best player, you get those 18 point. It's approximately where you're at. And I think it's a crime not to have, some of the other players that were not starting, and having Wiggins there, and Gobert shooting 70% from the field.
Yeah.
So
Insane.
I mean, I get that he doesn't. I get it. He dunks. He dunks. He has layups. But still, 70% is wild. And 15 rebounds, 16 points. He's the defensive player of the year almost. He was last year, and consistently has been. So I would put Gobert in there. I would also throw some consideration for Karl-Anthony Towns, who we haven't talked about yet, but they're a much better
He got
team this year.
8 by fans, 5 by media, 7 by players.
Yeah, so
as far as
getting a little bit more love.
Yeah. So a little bit lower on that list.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. Wiggins, I don't know if he should have been in there, but when it comes to these reserves, come on, coaches. You need to put in there
DeJounte
Murray. Yeah, put him in there.
When it comes to the Nuggets, you will not find another player getting any All-Star consideration other than Jokic. There's no one even close to being an All-Star right now. With Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. being out, there's no All-Star potential. But
yeah,
I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Speaking about the Nuggets and Spurs, tomorrow they both play Friday night, and we should be back again to give a post game about the Spurs and Nuggets. Talk about it a little bit. The All-Star game, February 20th in Cleveland, Ohio. Should be a pretty fun game. I'm excited for it. I always like All-Star weekend, that's for sure. But
fun times in Cleveland again.
Hey, they're good in the Eastern Conference, so you never know how they can go.
Yeah, they're a good team. Tell us who. Tell us. We want to hear from you guys. Tell us who you guys think were the snubs, who should have been in, where we went wrong. Tell us who you got to defend your boys, because the NBA is a players' league. So you got to defend, and you need to come into that comment section with some vengeance if you don't like what we're saying.
Yeah,
or if you don't like the vote.
I want to talk to the San Antonio Spurs fans. DeJounte being 12th, that's just ridiculous. Come on. It's the 5th biggest city in the country. That's disrespectful. Disrespectful. Remember to subscribe, and if you like this video and you stayed here this long, remember to like and subscribe our channel and this video. We'll be sure to bring you more NBA action and keep you guys updated. We'll see you next time.